All right, today we are diving into just one single sentence from the Bible, 1 John 4:16. But honestly, it might be one of the most powerful and life-changing sentences ever written. It's a verse that doesn't just describe God, it tells us who He is at His very core. And it offers us a totally new way to live. So let's get into it.
Here it is. Just let your eyes rest on that for a second. So we know and rely on the love that God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them. We're going to break this down piece by piece. The goal here is that by the end, you'll not only get what it means on a deep level, but you'll probably have it memorized without even trying. Okay, but before we start dissecting the verse itself, it's super important to get the backstory. To really feel the impact of these words, we got to understand why they were written in the first place. So picture this. The Apostle John, a guy who literally walked with Jesus, is writing a letter to these early Christians, and they're getting hit with all these confusing, kind of weird, false teachings. People are showing up claiming to have some secret knowledge, but their lives don't show any love at all. So John writes this letter to be an anchor for them in the middle of all that confusion, reminding them of the simple, undeniable truth of God's love.
So, keeping that idea of reassurance in mind, let's jump into the very first part of the verse. This is really the bedrock for everything else that's said.
It kicks off with this incredibly confident statement. So we know and rely on the love that God has for us. You hear that? That's not wishful thinking. That is a statement of fact. But what do those two words, know and rely, actually mean here? They're a lot bigger than you might think.
You see, when the verse says we know, it's not talking about knowing a fact for a test. This is a deep personal conviction, a certainty that comes from experience. It's kind of like the difference between knowing about the ocean from a book and the feeling of actually jumping in and feeling the water all around you. And this really nails that difference, doesn't it? It's not just knowing about God's love like it's a piece of trivia. It's being absolutely 100% certain of its truth, deep down in your bones. And that's the kind of knowing that changes everything.
And then we get rely on. This literally means to lean your full weight against something. Just imagine leaning against a solid brick wall. You don't have to worry about it giving way, right? You just trust it. That is the kind of fearless, total dependence this verse is talking about. It's trusting God's love as the very foundation of your entire life.
Okay, now we get to the absolute heart of the verse. It's just 3 little words, but they are, without a doubt, one of the most profound statements you'll find anywhere.
God is love. So simple, so direct, and it changes absolutely everything. This is the central pillar holding up this entire promise.
And I want you to really notice that tiny little word is. The verse doesn't say God is loving or that God shows love, even though both of those are true. It makes a much more radical claim that love is His actual identity, His essence. In a world full of gods defined by their power or their anger or how distant they were, this was revolutionary. Love isn't just something God does, it's who God is.
So this is the key distinction right here. It's about His nature, not just His actions. Because His very being is love. It means that everything He does, every single action, has to flow from that perfect, unchanging love. And just think for a second about what that really means for you and me. It means His love for us isn't based on our performance, on our good days or our bad days. It's not something He pulls back when we mess up. It's constant. It's unconditional. Why? Because it's coming from who He is, and He never changes.
So if we can know and rely on this love, and if we understand that God's very nature is love, what happens then? Well, the verse doesn't leave us hanging. It gives us this incredible promise of a real, active relationship.
And this is where it all comes home, where the big idea connects to our actual everyday lives. Whoever lives in love lives in God and God in them. This isn't talking about a one-time decision. It's talking about a continuous way of life.
To live in love literally means to dwell in it, to make love your home, your environment. It's not just a feeling that comes and goes. It's the very atmosphere you breathe, the lifestyle you choose to live day after day.
And this is not some abstract concept. It's incredibly practical. What does it actually look like? Well, it looks like choosing to forgive someone who really hurt you. It looks like showing kindness to someone who absolutely doesn't deserve it. It's having patience when every part of you is screaming. That's living in love.
And look at this incredible two-way street. When you choose to live in love, you are living in God. You're abiding in Him. You're aligning yourself with His true nature. And at the exact same time, God lives in you. His presence is actively at work inside you and through you. It's this beautiful mutual relationship.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together now. This whole verse, when you see it all laid out, it's so much more than a theological statement. It's a personal invitation.
You could really boil it all down to these 3 simple steps. First, just be secure. Rest in the truth of God's unconditional love. Second, learn to live from that love, not constantly trying to work for it. And third, just let that love naturally reflect out of you in how you treat other people.
So let's look at it one last time. Read it again, but with everything we've just talked about in mind. So we know and rely on the love that God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them. See? Every single phrase is just packed with security, identity, and an incredible promise. It's a foundation you can build your whole life on.
And that really brings us to the final question for you to think about. If this love, this unshakable, unconditional love, is truly your foundation, what fear, or what insecurity, or what pressure to perform could you maybe finally let go of today?